Hello everyone, it's the Metalist Programmer here. Today I would like to talk to you a little bit about a subject that I haven't seen anyone else talk about. And I haven't seen other people share their opinions, or their not their opinions, but sorry, let me take that back. Share their overall life experience about this subject that I want to speak. Or at least their videos haven't reached me through the YouTube recommendation algorithm. So, and it's also something that I've seen most programmers don't think too much, or they don't conceptualize this a lot. By the way, when I say programmers, take this word in a very broad sense of the word. It doesn't matter if you write native applications or web applications, you make websites, you're just a web designer, perhaps you don't do programming at all, you're just a web designer. To a certain degree, this applies to you as well, and for the most part, this applies to everyone in this domain of the information technology that deals with the creation of computer programs in any forms. We need to talk about the separation between the lone wolf path and the path of the sheep. Now, before I go into details, let me just put a disclaimer up front. I'm not trying to offend anyone, and it's not my intention to have anyone offended, or to say that some people are less than the others, even though from an objective perspective we could make some objective comparisons between. But anyway, I don't use the term sheep in a pejorative way, in a way so as to so as to say that they are inferior just because they have made some choices and not others. Okay, so if you're that kind of guy that gets offended easily and you cannot move past the words that I speak, into absorbing the essence of what I'm trying to say, this video is most likely not for you. So, just be warned. This is not a thing that most people think of, and so this is why I'm making this video. When you get into the path of being a programmer, it doesn't matter how. At some point you will make some choices. Even if you don't know that you're making those choices, you will, by the nature of this domain that we are working on, or perhaps some of you don't work already but you want to. The nature of this domain forces us on a certain path. It's impossible not to choose one of these two paths. There are some people that can be on both paths, although technically speaking, from a conceptual point of view, they would still fall. Anyway, let me get more into concrete terms so that you can understand better. Like I said, there are two paths here: the path of the sheep and the path of the lone wolf. Sadly, as far as I've seen, the path of the sheep is the one that is chosen by most programmers. Why? Because most programmers aim at getting into a company that has multiple programmers, and they want to be part of them. Okay? So the path of the sheep is essentially the path of the many, the path of choosing, and this, technically speaking, this doesn't apply only to programmers. It applies to it could apply to other domains of life, other fields of work, but it especially applies to programming, the programming world. The path of the ship is when you decide, I want to be part of a team, especially part of a large team. I don't want to work alone. I want to just be a contributor to a larger project and just do my contribution, you know. The path of the lone wolf, on the other hand, is the path in which you say, I don't care necessarily, I could work with others, but I don't necessarily care to work with others. I care to have enough skills that I alone can do whatever it takes to obtain a computer program in the end, or a website, or a web application, or a mobile application if you're that kind of programmer, or whatever. I want to be the one that knows enough about everything to get projects done top to bottom. In a way, the concept of lone wolf, at least when applied to the realm of web design, web development, tends to be synonymous to the concept of full stack developer, more or less. In a way, it's kind of the same, but the concept of lone wolf for me means a lot more. It doesn't just mean that you're a full stack developer, it means you are literally the only person working on a project. And for me, this has a very clear, there's a clear distinction between the two, because you can be a full stack developer working alongside other full stack developers, and you can still somehow share, work on the same project, except you work on only certain aspects, they work on other aspects of the project, whatever. Again, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I'm just trying to delimitate, you know, to put clear boundaries between what we're talking about. The fundamental problem, so there are both paths have advantages and disadvantages, okay? The advantage of the path of the sheep is that you will always have companies that want to hire new people. Maybe not every year, but every now and then they will want to hire new people. So in general, you don't have to worry about whether or not you will be able to work and get money. The path of the sheep also typically means that you don't care about understanding an entire project, understanding what are the needs of the client, because, you know, every project, even when the project is yours, you're the client, so to speak. You're creating a program for yourself. You don't just create a program just like that because you woke up today and you had nothing better to do with your life than create a program. No. Computer programs always solve a problem or a need, or satisfy a need that we have or somebody else has. Okay? In the beginning, and I will, throughout this video, I will share a few details about my path in life and in the IT industry. Again, not to bore you with details, and not because I just like to talk about myself, I don't, but because they are relevant in this discussion. In the very beginning, I never wanted to be a professional programmer, okay? I learned programming just for myself because I wanted to convince the computer to do what I wanted instead of using other programs written by other people that by definition do what they want. sometimes those programs satisfy our needs completely and we don't need to write a new software. And of course, I highly encourage everyone to just use some other people's software when that software satisfies completely what you need. It makes no sense for you to reinvent the wheel if you need exactly a wheel that has been created by someone else. However, when someone else has created something that does not satisfy you, you pretty much have no choice but to create that yourself, okay? This is how I got into programming. And I never cared to be a computer programmer. In fact, I never cared to be anything. I happened to land on to find a guy who needed programming. He was starting a new business. He had nobody, he had no employees, no nothing. Somebody introduced me to this guy, and I already had 5 years of experience up to that point. Anyhow, long story short is, because I never wanted to be a programmer, I never concerned myself with the things that most programmers concern themselves. And the path of the sheep basically asks you to care about, you know, what languages are the most popular, in what languages could you find the most jobs, what languages are the best paid. Once you decide to go towards that language and learn that language, you have to worry about, you know, what frameworks do you need to learn, what libraries, what methodologies, what blah blah blah, all sorts of things, because when working with multiple people, you cannot simply say, oh, you know, I like black pens, you know, I'm gonna write with black pens. I'm talking metaphorically, you know, because they will say, no, sorry, we use blue pens, and we all have to use the same blue pen. You cannot come and say that, no, if you want to work with us in our team, you have to work like this, and like that. You have to use this and that. I never concerned myself with these things, and I never even thought about these things. I always considered, I always thought of myself as the kind of guy that needs to know everything possible in order to accomplish anything possible. You know, because what chances do I have if somebody hires me that he will also hire someone else in parallel, so we can share the work, and maybe there's something that I know, I don't know, but this other guy knows, and so on and so forth. Like, I cannot rely on that. I have to rely only on myself. And the point of this video that I'm making is to explain to you that there is a catch. There are very big advantages to being like me, being a lone wolf programmer, but there's a catch, and you have to understand this. And this video is particularly useful for younger people who are at the beginning of their... I hate using the word career. I really hate the word career, but anyway, at the beginning of this path in the world of computer programming, to put it this way. The path of the sheep has the big advantage that I've mentioned earlier. You will tend to always find jobs. You will tend to always find people who are willing and able to pay you. And that's probably the biggest advantage, if not the only advantage. I mean, okay, let's add a new advantage that I personally don't see this to be an advantage, and I will mention in a minute. But sadly, most people do consider this an advantage. When you're a sheep in a herd, you have the luxury of not having to think so much. There are other people above you who do the thinking. You have the luxury of being just an executioner. And when I say executioner, I'm not talking about that kind of executioner I mean, in English language, the word executioner is kind of, it's different from my language. When I say executioner, I mean a person that executes a task. Okay, not a person that kills another person because they have a death sentence or something. I'm not talking about that executioner. Executioner simply means a person that executes a task, a person that does some form of work, and that's it. Okay, when you are on the path of the sheep, you have the luxury of not having to think too much, not having to understand too much. In teams, especially in large teams, in big companies, you will be having superiors. You'll always have superiors. If you're working there, you will always have superiors. The only people in companies who don't have superiors are the owners, and they are not working. Okay? The owners of the companies or the managers, well, even the managers eventually do have the owners of the company as superiors to them. But anyway, these are the kind of people that are the least productive. They are, we cannot say that they are working in the truest sense of the word. They are working in those companies. And they are the only ones who don't have superiors, okay? They are just getting money from the work that you do as a worker. And yes, sadly, even in this line of work, programmers nowadays are just workers. At least in these corporate environments, in these large or even medium to large companies, programmers are seen just as workers. They are not seen superior in any way, at least from the management perspective. It's just someone who gets shit done so that the company receives money and by extension them. Okay, so as an employee, you will always have superiors, and because of that, you will always be told what to do. Sure, depending on what position you are in a company, it might be expected of you to simply know certain things and not to ask how to do certain things, to just ask what do you need to do, and once you're told to just know, okay, I need to, I don't know, I need to generate some PDF files, okay. I'm going to use, I'm not going to ask my superior to how should I do this, because then it implies that I don't know what I'm doing in my job. I'm simply going to, for example, download DOM PDF library, if possible, or whatever other library, and I'm going to learn how to use that if I don't already know, and I'm going to, you know, generate the PDF documents that I need, that my company needs for my software. Okay, but the fact that I need to generate PDF files is something that needs to be told from a superior. A superior needs to tell me, and this has the advantage of not having so much pressure on me. I don't have to, you know, think. I don't have to. Perhaps I don't have to do. I don't have to talk at all with the customer, the beneficiary of the software that I'm writing. Somebody else above me has to talk to him to understand what he wants, what he needs, and to deliver that information to me, and I'm just doing it. I'm just working to have that accomplished, okay? That's the second advantage, and honestly the only advantage that you have, and I would say it's just a partial advantage. Yes, there is this sort of freedom or ease that you get from not being the one who needs to know everything. But at the same time, there are only problems on this path of the lone wolf. Like I said, you will always be seen as a simple wheel, a cogwheel in a large mechanism. As with any other small cogwheels, you can be replaced easily. Number one. Number two, you will not really have freedoms. You will always have to do what you're told to do. If they tell you, hey, we're switching from, I don't know, I'm just gonna give a stupid example. We've worked with Symfony so far, we're gonna switch to Laravel next week. I don't know, you have 1 month to familiarize yourself with Laravel. You don't get to say, what? No, I'm gonna keep using Symfony, why? No, you cannot say that. You have to do what you're told, because everyone else is gonna do what they're told, for the most part. And if not, you're gonna become useless for the team, and by extension for the company. So you're gonna have problems. Maybe they will not kick you out of the company, maybe they will give you a different job or whatever. But overall, you will not have freedoms. You, as an employee, regardless of the job that you're having, you have to go to a certain office for a certain number of hours a day. You only have a certain number of free days a month as a holiday, right? In really bullshit corporations, there are those things called team buildings, in which they basically force you to spend time with other coworkers, having fun. You're not really having fun. I mean, your coworkers, by the way, fun fact, your coworkers are not friends, even if you have a good relation with them. Your coworkers are just people that you're working with. You did not choose them. You chose to go to a company, you became an employee in that company, and you woke up having a certain number of coworkers. Friends are people that you personally choose to be friends with. Okay? So, anyway, to close the parenthesis, you're forced to spend your free time from time to time with coworkers which are not your family, they are not your friends, they are not anyone. And you don't get to say no. This is one of the many reasons why I avoided as much as possible the slavery of the corporate world, because the corporate world is just a different form of slavery. Okay? Another big disadvantage, and this is something that you need to understand. If you're a sheep, you can be a very good sheep. You can have many years of experience being a sheep. The fact that you don't know, and you will not be able to do everything that you need for a project, means that if at some point in time somebody comes to you and says, hey, if you happen to have a little bit of free time, other than the time that you're working for this company, you know, I have a project that I would like someone to do for me. I have this web application, or this maybe this desktop application, maybe this mobile application, whatever that is. You know, it's not big, it's not super small either. It's something that you could do in, let's say, 2 months of working in your free time. Just to say as an example, right? Be very careful. It is very likely that you will not be able to take that project, not due to legal reasons or anything, but because since you have never put yourself in a position in which to have to think of everything and to conceive an entire project, you might fail if you take that project, because you're used to doing only this small part of everything that gets done in your company. And now somebody says, hey, I have a small project, but this small project requires many other things aside from, you know, what you have done. Let's say you're a front-end guy. You have only done front-end. You have only done web design, basically. Let's just call it how it is. Web design. You have only created web pages with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, whatever. You have never bothered in your company, because you didn't had to. You have never bothered with backend stuff. You have never bothered with making requests to other servers to get information from other third-party companies. You have never bothered with databases, you know, how to create a database, how to create tables, how to structure tables. You have never bothered with just thinking in abstract terms, what is a project made of, top to bottom. Because a project may require a web server, background scripts written in Bash or something else, or Python or whatever, placed in cron jobs, might even require FFmpeg transcoding of some video files. Let's say the project implies that the user will upload a video file on your application, and you need to convert that video file from whatever format that is into something that can be played on a web page, which means MPEG-4 and certain parameters, certain technical details. Okay, you would need to run FFmpeg in the background of your server. You would need to implement a queue, because, you know, you never know how many files, how many users will upload how many files. You will need to deal with backend of the web application, front end of the web application. Okay, let's say you don't have a problem with the front end because we've assumed you are a front end guy. You need to do everything for this project. And even if this project is relatively small and could be done by, let's say, a guy like me, there are very big chances that if you are the kind of sheep programmer, you won't be able to accomplish this project, to finalize everything and to deliver to the client, you know, this small web platform that he's asking of you, because you simply don't know anything else other than what you're doing, other than your front end. Which means that you are bound to work only as a front-end guy. If you're fired or if you leave your company, in other companies, but only as a front-end guy doing this small thing. Now, I'm not saying that you can't learn other things, perhaps. I'm saying if you specialize and over-specialize in this small thing, you will, by definition, be unable to take on something that can be literally handed to you, because you won't have the necessary knowledge, experience, because you never thought of anything else. And you never thought of anything else because all you wanted is to be a good sheep in the company that you're working for. And again, like I said, this comes with advantages. I'm not saying that you don't have any advantages, but you will always be a small cog in a large machine. You will always be disposable. Think about that. Think about whether or not that might be a problem for you. Think about how many times the company had to asked you to do something and you just couldn't say no. I'm not talking just about those business-related stuff, business-related tasks. I'm talking about things like, you know, this weekend you're not going to spend time with your family. We need to go into team building in this part of the country or whatever, and we're gonna have fun with I don't know what kind of activities and whatnot. How many times did that happen and you were able to say no, absolutely not? Okay, probably not that many times. Now, the path of the lone wolf, on the other hand, is literally the opposite of the path of the sheep. When you're a lone wolf, the first advantage is that you don't have to care that somebody in Facebook, for example, decided to create this framework called React, and everybody's overhyped about React, so now they ask React of you. So now they force you to learn React or whatever else framework or library, or they impose there's nobody to impose on you a certain stack of tools, libraries, frameworks that you need, technologies that you need to use in order to create your project. That's the first advantage. I've had customers that try to force WordPress on me. They wanted websites and they heard that WordPress is the best of the best, and they understand nothing. But anyway, and they just wanted me to create WordPress presentation web pages, website. And I said, no, sorry. No, I've had WordPress experience in the past, dealing with WordPress, not necessarily. I've created 2 or 3 websites in WordPress. I have actually created them, but I hate the process. And when it comes to more advanced projects, more complex websites, WordPress has a whole bunch of problems. No, I'm gonna use my framework or my something. And they might say, no, sorry, no, we really want WordPress. Not a problem, but you're not gonna be my client. Please go find yourself a different programmer. I have the freedom to say that. Because I don't have a manager on top of me who says, no, you can't. This is a company client. This is not your client. You have to do what he tells you. That's the first advantage. The second advantage is, well, actually, let me elaborate a little bit more about this first advantage. Because you're not forced to learn something new, if you can get the project done and the project satisfies the requirements of your customer, for the most part, he will not care at all what you have used to create that project. What language have you used, what libraries, what frameworks, if you used any, he will not care. For the most part, maybe sometimes, maybe. But for the most part, your clients will come to you, or you will go in front of your clients, you know, and they will be like, hey, this is what I need from you. Number one, how much does it take? How much time does it take for you to create this? And number two, how much will it cost for me? That's it. So things are simple. So you won't have to. The nice thing about being a lone wolf is that you don't have to. You're not forced to learn a new library or a new framework just because some idiot in some company or on the internet somewhere has decided, hey, I know an even better JavaScript thing, framework, whatever. Spoiler alert, everything that is in JavaScript or starts or ends with JavaScript cannot be good, cannot be great, cannot be in any way. But anyway, that's a different discussion. Sadly, we are stuck with JavaScript, at least in the browser. Fortunately, we don't have to be forced, at least as lone wolves, we don't have to be forced to use JavaScript on the server or anything else, anywhere else except in the browser. And that's a good thing. Okay? You get a lot of freedom. You also get the pressure. This is the disadvantage. You get, first of all, the pressure of having to either constantly find new clients, new customers. And that is a big deal. That is a big problem. Not everyone can do that. I'm fortunate enough to not have to do that. I have right now 2 customers that pay me monthly for the services that they need from me, and I do things on a monthly basis to them. So in a way, I'm like being an employee, but at the same time not an employee, because I have my own company. So I don't have to follow stupid rules like, you know, you come into the office 8 hours a day or something like that. But I personally, I managed to get this advantage of having a certain amount of money coming on a monthly basis. This is great, and I'm grateful. This is not something that everyone can achieve, and I admit that some people might not be able to, and it's perfectly fine. If you're not meant for business, I'm not meant for doing business either. I cannot say about myself that I'm truly having a business right now in the truest sense of the word. I'm having a company, not a business. But anyway, that's a different topic. So this is a problem that it is true that some people cannot overcome, and that's fine. I don't want you to stress about it. Before starting, just as a small parenthesis, before starting my company, I had an attempt to start my company, and I kind of failed. And that led me to getting a new job as an employee into a different company for 1 year. And then 1 year later, I was able to actually start my company and everything that came after. So this is one of the biggest problems that you have as a lone wolf. You will either have to find yourself a situation like mine, in which maybe you won't get a lot of money, but you will get a certain amount of money every month from a client that needs you constantly, or from 2 or 3 clients that need you constantly, and they pay you a little bit, but it's enough, and maybe from 2 of them or 3 of them you get to have enough to maintain yourself. Or constantly find yourself new clients. That sucks, I admit. Fortunately, I don't have to do that. That sucks, and it is a big deal. So this is why I'm saying you need to be aware of this. But another advantage, besides the one that I mentioned earlier, with you not having to just keep yourself up to date with the latest bullshit JS that gets out on the market, the second big advantage is that you get to truly develop yourself. When you need to take on an entire project, before you take on a full project, you need to reach a point in which you know enough to be able to establish, when you're in front of that client and that client is explaining to you what he needs, you need to be smart enough and experienced enough in order to understand from a technical perspective what exactly do you need to do, what do you need to accomplish. And once you establish what you need to accomplish, you then have to know what do you know already and what new things do you need to learn. Okay? But when you're good enough to take on an entire project, even when you need to learn new things, and for the most part I've constantly needed to learn new things, at least to a certain degree, that is literally pushing you forward. That's making you evolve. That's making you progress. Okay? You will never be stagnant at a certain level the way you are in a big tech or in a tech corporation. Doesn't matter. Company. Doesn't matter how small or how big that is. Because as a lone wolf, you will always need to learn something new, but something useful. Something truly useful. Okay? Nobody can come to you and say, right now you need to learn Angular. And then 6 months later to come to you and say, hey, Angular is no longer a good thing, is no longer popular or whatever. You need to learn React. And then you just have to do this effort. And then maybe 1 year from now, he will come back to you and say, hey, no, this other bullshit JavaScript thing is the best now. The best. Now you need to learn this. No. As a lone wolf, you don't... And basically, every time you learn something new, it's not truly useful in the truest sense of the word. It's useful up to a certain point. As a lone wolf, you only learn what is truly useful and what you keep using in other projects as well. Okay? And you have the luxury of establishing a set of technologies that become proven technologies to you. You gain enough, you can gain enough trust in them that they will help you build not just this project that you're working on right now, but also future projects, and that you will be able to use this collection of technologies without having necessarily to learn something new, unless you have to solve a new problem, a completely new problem. Okay, nobody can come to you and say, hey, you know, this framework is no longer good, this other framework is better, so you have to learn him. Even though technically speaking they're both the same, they're both accomplishing the same tasks, you know. And that's an advantage. It's always an advantage when you get to evolve, even just a little bit. To give you other examples, you know, I constantly needed to learn something new throughout my entire life. At some point, I had to learn things concerning IPTV and in general live streaming. I had to learn video compression problems. This is why I mentioned FFmpeg earlier. I had to learn how to tell what command to tell FFmpeg to convert from one format to another, to establish a certain quality in the images, and so on and so forth. How to start, how to make a what is it called? Single program transport stream or multi-program transport stream, and all sorts of things related to video technologies. Then at a later point in time, I had to deal with a few years ago, for example, for a project that I did, I had to learn WebSockets because I've never done WebSockets. But I had this necessity to have, let me see if I can, okay, to have two different users on two different computers browsing with their browser, so not installing different programs, just going on a certain website, which was created by me, a web platform, and these users needed to establish a connection between them and start interacting with each other. So in the middle, on our server, I needed to have a WebSocket server that both browsers would make a connection to, you know, and through this WebSocket to be able to send the real-time informations back and forth. I've never done that until 2021, 3 years ago. I had to learn that then. Then in different projects I needed for myself, for example, I wanted to take a Raspberry Pi and write with an LCD screen and make an application that would display something on screen. And I wanted the fastest, simplest solution. So I had to learn Python language in a more serious manner. And I had to learn Tkinter, which is one of the easier user interface libraries in Python. They're very bad, both of them, but they get some jobs done. So if you want something quick and dirty but still functional, and you don't care all that much about other aspects, fine, go with Python and Tkinter. I had to learn that 3 years ago because I had no knowledge. I had some very shallow knowledge of Python, but up until that project, which again, it was just my personal project, I had never needed to write multiple thousands of lines of code in Python and so on and so forth. You will most likely not be able to develop yourself and to evolve yourself in a corporate environment when you're working for a company and you're just being a small wheel in a large mechanism. Sometimes you can. Sometimes you can. There are some people on YouTube who, you know, claim that they worked for big companies in the past and they were able to jump from one department to another and to keep learning new things. Okay, yeah, sure. I agree that there are exceptions to the general rule. But for the most part, you won't be able to do it. Now, here's the biggest problem that you need to be aware of if you join, if you go on the path of the lone wolf. Okay. The first problem, like I said, is the problem that you will you will need to make sure that you constantly have money. So you will either need to search for clients or find clients that need you sort of permanently. and they constantly need you, so they will pay you on a monthly basis some amount of money that will be good enough for you. That's the first problem. The second big problem, which I encountered, well, I cannot say that I've truly encountered, but I realized that I have this problem only, I don't know, last year or 2 years ago, something like that. I considered the idea of temporarily going into some corporate environment, or not necessarily corporate environment, but working in a team of people. And I came to the realization that, well, actually I can't, because I'm so used to doing things my own way. And I know very little about the things that other people use, that I simply cannot work in a team. I had a chat with a bunch of people with, well, in my country there are two guys that have a personal project trying to help other programmers to get richer than they are. Anyway, I had a chat with one of them at some point, and you know, he asked me about my experience, and I explained to him overall, and the general conclusion was that I won't be able to fit into any team, and basically most people would not want to hire me because I did not care to learn. For example, when it comes to web development in PHP, which is something that I've done for the most part in my life. Nowadays, you kind of have to learn Laravel. Laravel and Symfony are the biggest frameworks in PHP. I think Laravel right now is number 1 and Symfony comes number 2. I'm not 100% sure, but these are one of the biggest, and you kind of have to know Laravel, kind of have to learn Laravel. I don't. I never had to, because 11 years ago, wanting to work on a relatively big project, I created my own framework, which is good enough, okay, which does enough things, which has been used then in several other projects. But because I've never bothered to learn Laravel, nobody else would want to work with me, because nobody else will accept me saying, hey, you know, I can just do this application of yours in my framework. Which I never got to finish to the point where I considered her to be a complete product, good to be placed on the internet. So it's not an open source project, even though I planned to have that, but I never finished my framework enough for releasing on the internet. But my framework is good enough for what I need to create a new web application. Pretty much everyone will say, no, sorry, no. You need to learn Laravel, you need to learn Symfony, or something along those lines on the backend. On the front end, other than jQuery, I never used and I never will use anything. And that's, again, another problem, because even as a freelancer, other people, I understand, will not want to work with me because they already work or plan to work with React or Angular or Vue or whatever else. Especially if they have already even a small team of people. In order for me to join that team, I would have to learn the same thing. So in a way, even as a freelancer, the problem is, if you want to join a team, you have to play like a sheep. And that's what I wanted to say, the biggest thing that I wanted to say in this video. Bear in mind that, you know, it took me quite a long time to get to know this and to understand this, because I never had problems. I've always had at least one job and occasional clients on the side. I've always been able to accomplish whatever I needed only with what I had, only with what I knew, or by learning new things, but not in this particular way, you know, that a sheep is kind of forced to learn or to know. I've always been able to just use my own tools, my own way, my own methods, and not really care that this is more popular than this other thing, and like, no. But this is a real problem. If I or someone else like me will want one day to join a team, we will be unable to until we learn things that other people have used and other people require of us. Okay, so if you to give you a conclusion to this video, I would definitely not ever choose the path of the sheep, or maybe I would choose the path of the sheep for a very short period of time, like 5 years most. I would try to squeeze the juice out of the corporate world as much as possible. I would try to get as much money, as high salary as possible, and at the same time to have as low costs as possible, so as to save as much money as possible for a very limited amount of time. 3 years, 4 years, a maximum of 5 years, if that's possible. And then I would absolutely switch to the lone wolf path, because the path of the sheep leaves you stuck in there as just a small worker, small, you know, wheel in a large mechanism, and that's it. So overall, I would absolutely choose to, if I had a chance to make that choice again, I would absolutely choose to be a lone wolf, and I would absolutely encourage anyone to become a lone wolf on the path of programming, computer programming. However, at the same time, you need to understand both the advantages and the disadvantages. And these are things that other people might not tell you. Okay? And you need to be good with both the advantages and the disadvantages of the lone wolf path. So, I think I spoke enough. I hope I made myself understood. I hope this is useful, and this will be useful at least for new people, for young people that are relatively new in the world of technology, so that you can now make a conscious choice, not an automatic choice that you just do because you think you have no other choice. I hope that now you understand, so that you can think about it and choose for yourself, instead of just fall into one situation or another. Thank you very much for watching this video. I will soon come with videos discussing real technical stuff. So if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button below, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.